Hey, I'm Justin.
This is Jazz.
Join us as we look back together, but learn to stay present.
Come with us as we rise up with hope on the horizon.
This is the podcast of extraordinary millennial gentlemen. We are talking about an album review and pretty excited. This is an album that Chaz and I have pretty good familiarity with.
Yeah, this one goes back.
It's been a while.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know who that was, I mean, that was Panic singing the Frozen song Into the Unknown.
And if you don't know who Panic is, Google it.
You shouldn't even have to say more than Panic, but that's true. The At the Disco after that, but it's pretty much become Panic.
Yeah.
You know who they are.
If you don't know that reference, then you're probably going to learn a lot today in the podcast.
Yeah.
And if you already know the reference, we hope you enjoy either way. Yeah. But before we get into the album and its review, tell me what you've been consuming, man. What's been your go-to this week?
Consuming. So we kind of binged watched something last night, which is kind of fun. I think it's called Meteor Garden. Meteor Garden. Anyway, you have to read the subtitles. It's like it's Chinese, but it's kind of gaining popularity, I guess, throughout the United States. At least that's what I hear. The people that told me to watch it. It's like this TV series.
Yeah.
And
is
about
it
this
space?
No. It's just a college campus thing.
In
where
space?
It's just this girl and how her experience is kind of getting bullied from this group of four guys. She likes one of them, and there's just this drama. Anyway, we watched like 4 episodes last night, and that's probably the first TV I've watched in quite a while. It was fun to catch what they're saying and how they translated the subtitles and stuff. So that was fun, but it's very, we found ourselves like laughing, enjoying that piece. We lived in China for 2.5 years. So some of the culture, it was very realistic in that sense. And so that was fun. A nice break. So something recently consumed, but it was a good unload and just, and
that's a TV show. It's a series.
Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My wife and I were,
if you're interested.
The wife and I were going through our mini streaming services last night and just couldn't find a movie worth watching. We couldn't do it. And it's not because we've seen everything, but for those out there who don't know, we choose not to consume overly violent sexual content when we can.
Right.
We choose to do that. And
it limits a lot of things.
Narrowed it down. It narrowed it down a little bit, but just nothing jumping out. Even like the classics, things I know that my wife hasn't seen or she knows that I haven't seen. So we probably spent 20 minutes just like scroll.
Yeah.
So don't know if anybody can relate to that, but we did land on something. It was pretty good. Nothing really to write home about, but I haven't hit a lot of TV. This week, I actually started reading a new book. It's about Chicago.
Oh.
Can't help it. Chi-town.
Interesting,
1885. So probably wasn't quite Chi-town.
Is that pre the big fire?
Just before.
Just before, okay.
Just before, and then the main events that the book covers actually after the fire, circa 1905.
Very interesting,
very interesting book. It's kind of fiction, not really. It's by an author named Eric Larson. I've seen a bunch of his books before. This one is called Devil in the White City.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
But
it's about Chicago, turn of the century. If you guys haven't gotten a look at Eric Larson, Eric with a K, pretty good author, Washington native. Holla back. And really enjoying the book so far. He typically ties a lot of history with some actual nonfiction narrative, people's lives, intertwines them it's just a great narrative. It's a great read so far. I'm about a quarter of the way through it.
Cool.
But I'm learning a lot about the old school Chicago, man.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Like, yeah, the city's roots, and pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. That sounds interesting. I mean, we live here, so it's kind of fun to learn all those details. All I've ever heard was, hey, there was a big fire and they almost didn't rebuild the city, but then they did, and then it became a pretty big place. So very high level, non-historical look at it. But
the other thing I'd say, this is kind of non-traditional of us for what we've consumed this week, but I have to say, got out to one of our national parks here in Washington, Olympic National Park, and just drunk from the pure waters of the visual stunning beauty of one of our nation's parks. No, but it was great. It was great to get out kids. Did a hike, a couple miles up into the mountains. Man, it's hard to beat. I take that stuff with me. That's a happy place that I go to in my mind.
That's cool. Yeah, the only other thing I can think of that I really consumed a little bit this week was a little bit of golf. Went and did some Twilight golfing with the crew.
Hey now,
and
here we go.
Brought the little boy, brought him with, and his friend went with the other dad. And so we had the kids with us.
Cool, man.
They each had these little clubs. So after a hole or two, we'd let them tee off and hit, and then putt when we got to the greens. And so that was fun. He wanted to drive the cart around. And then the next day he's like, that was fun. Can we go back? So we went back the next day. And so that was like, I think it was Friday, Saturday, back to back.
Okay.
And I was surprised because I was like, he's like, that was funner than I thought. I thought I was going to be bored.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, good. I'm glad you didn't hate it,
Water the plant.
Yeah. And then exactly. I'm like, good. You like it. Let's keep this up. But he has like 4 clubs. I bought it off like one of those used. It was new, just someone was selling it on those, offer up apps and stuff. And $20. So
nice.
He has to go back, and this course that we were at has a juniors course. There's only 3 holes.
Hey,
and
no way.
Nobody's ever on them. So for me and him both to play those 3 holes, it was $4. And I'm like, cool, man. I can't even buy you a Happy Meal for $4.
No.
So
let's go. Cannot.
And he loved it. He's like, can we go again? I was like, well, we'd have to go pay for it. So we just dropped a few balls at that last green, chipped on a few more times, putted a few. Nobody was behind us. Nobody
got your quarters worth.
Yeah, we got our full quarters worth. We've got 3 extra lives on the other holes. So we kept playing.
There you
go. But that was fun. And just to get out. So, any other dads out there that golf, sometimes you get a bad rap for that. It's like, I don't know. I've heard it's like been called like you're turning into a bro. Like, don't go bro. Which, I mean, if you like it and the kid, it's something you can bring the kids to. So if there's that like stigma, there's a workaround. So I found that.
No, I like it, man. I think for both of us, that outing you went on back-to-back days with your son, getting out in the woods for our family, that's the mental health we're talking about. That's really important to take that time.
Get out of the house.
Get out and go consume something mentally really healthy for you. A little bit of exercise, a little bit of fresh air, and not solo, but with the relationships you have and you can safely keep.
Yep.
I like it.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff.
Nice, man. Well, let's get to this album cover. So for everybody out there, this is the first album review Chaz and I are doing on the podcast. We selected something that is fairly familiar for both of us, goes back almost a couple decades, about a decade and a half for us, into a different era, a different time in life. You guys can probably all relate to this time in life. So again, the artist, like Chad said, is Panic at the Disco, aka Panic. And album is A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. This was circa 2005.
Oh,
decade
no way.
And a half.
Wow, 2005. Years. See, I didn't look any of this up, so this is all.
Wow. Yeah, I'm hitting you with the Wikipedia, the first paragraph, right? Debut 2005. This is the debut album from the artist. These guys had just graduated high school.
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting.
Oh, really? They were out of high school.
They were frosh. They were barely out of high school.
Ooh. So this is their like high school band. They've been playing up forever.
Yes. Wow. We got an album here that was recorded right out of high school.
Yeah.
By a band that got together in high school that used to cover Blink 182. They were like a Blink 182 cover.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Let's get into this album. So we're going to go a little bit non-linear for an album review. Again, everybody, this is our first one, but we do want to hit some of these topics, give it a little structure. So I want to start right off the bat about the musicianship, the quality of the musicianship that you get from listening to this album.
So, I mean, I'm not...
And if there's layers, peel them back. Peel them back.
So I specifically selected that opening song with his newest, because for me, that song, I mean, it's popular. It's Frozen 2, right? And he has an amazing range. He hits some sweet high notes. He's got some skill. Like, he's very fine-tuned by the time he gets to this, which, 2005 to 2020. I mean, there's a lot of time, or going back in time, like crazy amount
every day,
right out of high school. So that kind of gives me a fresh sight, because I went back to this and I was just like, he was more in a much more narrow range for me.
Yep.
Lyrically, it was a lot of, although I was super impressed by the phrasing and how articulate.
How does he breathe?
It's at the pace of like a rap in certain places. It's definitely rap pace, but
is
it's
it
singing
faster than some of Will Smith's songs, straight up. It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Way
it's definitely is. There's some, I'll bring out some Code Red when we get to those from Will Smith, and it just rattles off, and I've never heard him do that other than that album. But for 99% of everything, he's rattling, and
of course that's the Will Smith meter that I'm using for everybody out there. That is the scale to measure everything, aka usher in the millennium, bringing it back, y'all. Okay,
that's
sorry,
right.
I digress.
That's okay. The words he's saying, I don't know how they wrote these. I don't know if you have any backstory, and we'll get into this about what this whole CD is about. But the words he rattles off, like linoleum ward, accentuating, like, if I never sat down, there were definite pauses when I was listening to this where I'm like, singing along in my head, and then I'm like, I don't know what they're saying.
What did he just
throw out there? I had the lyrics up the whole album, and I was going through lyrically listening.
Okay.
I was catching it. I'm like, he could sing whatever he wants. This thing has a sweet beat for right out of high school. And all that was super lyrics. He just spitting it out. It's super clear. You could catch everything. And so anyway,
that's
those areas.
I'm right there with you as far as the musicianship. I felt like the main instrument you hear are the vocals. I mean, there's a lot of synth. There's some crazy drums. There's a lot of drum machine, though. It's very, very, very polished, the beats and everything. I'd be fascinated to go back. I didn't do this week as part of the review, but I would have been fascinated to go back to a live performance of some of these tracks, because I think that out of the studio quality,
very studio quality.
It's very, very, very studio. And that's interesting for a debut album to me. But again, I think it kind of fits their sound. So I didn't track any of the lyrics word for word, but I would listen to them carefully. Right. Back to the instruments, though. I heard one noticeable guitar solo. That was it. The entire album. So that was an interesting departure for me. A lot of the guitar to me was just very rhythmic. It was just like strum, 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 strum. And there was melody, but I'm telling you, the lead singer's voice is the main instrument, and it's phenomenal.
Everything else is
the main instrument. Everything else is backup. So
I would agree.
I'd be very interested based on that vocal performance and the polish, the studio, the electronic backup, what they sounded like live. Maybe we'll have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, and a question in there that came up for me was, I was like, is he using backup singers in certain sections? It sounds like him overlaid on him, but a slight tweak, like he stood an extra foot away from the mic or something to do his overlay loop,
So I totally know what you're saying. I made note of that as well. A lot of the choruses had vocal harmonies or kind of this conversational, which again adds to the speed when you've got multiple voices, when you've got kind of a question and answer in a chorus. And this is leading to what I feel like the overall, what I would liken this album to, and I'll get to that in a minute. Cliffhanger.
Yes. Well, let me just throw this out there, and we just the content, the nature of the content of the lyrics and the storyline out of high school. Like,
wow. Okay. I mean, you're hitting it. All right. You're hitting it.
It's like they were like, I mean, it felt like they were through college. Like these may have been college experiences or political things they were hitting on. Like, I don't know what's behind all this because I didn't look at it.
So let me, I've got to throw it out there then.
Okay.
My take on this entire album, as far as lyrically and performance, aside from what I already said about the vocals and their nastiness and that flow he has, this sounds like musical theater to me.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like and I'm not trying to ruin it for everybody out there in the audience, but if you were to go back, listen to this album again and picture that it's taking place on a stage, that there are characters, right? That there's, and there's intermissions. There are intermissions built into these tracks.
I listened to the whole thing of the intermissions just to make sure.
So that to me, again, it's a production. You guys could argue out there whether that makes a good album or not. I think it depends. But I compared this, like that's what I related it to. I'm like, this is like not a Broadway musical.
Right.
This is more kind of like that high school to college musical, and it now fits in my head how that lead singer was able to spit all this. I mean, it's like Hamilton in 2005.
Yes.
Not quality wise.
Right.
But concept.
Right? And I mean, and look at the album cover. I mean, if you haven't looked at it, I was like, it's total theatrical. It's total theater.
100%.
And even in one of the songs, he says, if you haven't caught on, basically, I'm the narrator. This is the prologue. Here we go. Right. So I think to me, it felt you should listen sequentially.
Yep. Like, you have to. You put this thing on random, it's a different experience.
Exactly. You need to listen through. And just as a side note, because I've got it up here, I mean, most people may have never listened to some of these songs because the ratings, at least on Amazon, the only like hits is I Write Sins, Not Tragedies. And maybe we'll take a break and I'll play a short clip of that. That's the one that has full bars. And I think there's like, I don't know how many bars I'm seeing there, but I think 10. Everything else has 3, 4, maybe there's 1, 4, or it's below. There's
I can tell 4s, you exactly.
Mostly 2s, mostly singles. Yeah. And that's the only song people are going to know from this album, but there's other good ones that
I can tell you exactly why that is, but why don't we go ahead and see if we can cue that up.
Let's take a break. Let's cue this up and we'll dive back into that. Let me bring it up here.
Like I said, man, that's if I had to put this thing under some kind of concept, the concept to me is this narrative, theatrical presentation of a handful of themes. Let's see. How do I want to say this? I think there's kind of marriage, prostitution,
drugs,
religion, drugs, alcohol.
There's
a lot of hypocrisy, calling out the hypocrisy. You see this every day. You see this every day, but I'll tell you the way it really is. It's almost like the whole album is something behind closed doors. Here's what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is an interesting concept. But like I said, if you had to pin it down to how is it presented, it's presented like a narrator in a play, and it plays out like a play with acts and everything.
I wonder where they went to high school, because
Vegas.
Oh, okay.
It's not fitting any molds, right? It's just not.
I was like, what kind of experiences to write these, and whether they're personal or not, or third party,
middle to upper class.
To
upper class.
Okay, Vegas theater drama, right? I mean, and they see the whole, they do. They definitely
Sin City, man.
They cover
Sin
everything.
City.
Yeah. Drug, sex, alcohol, politics, abuse.
You're right. It's all
everything
over.
I mean, even the media, like, so, okay, that makes sense for like stars and certain tracks that, are popping into my head right now. Okay.
I will say that all the commentary on those themes.
Yeah.
To me, okay, I won't say this album has been on my rotation for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get to context of when this released was for us, right? And let's get back to some of those memories shortly.
Yes,
but
for sure. Yes.
I have to tell you, not having listened to that for a long time, especially all the way through,
yep,
I was kind of getting some controlled yelling was like the vibe, where I'm like, pretty good range, but it's all kind of like whisper, 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 again, at a high speed. Yep. Not saying it's bad, but I would say if you're used to this artist and what he does now, this is real early, and you can tell.
Yeah,
you can tell it's real early.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, wow, man. But out of high school, I mean, I would have.
Yeah, I wouldn't be hitting those themes.
System.
I'd be like,
no way.
Girls and romance and cars and stuff and the beach. I think I'd probably be like the Beach Boys out of high school.
Yeah.
Not, that would be okay. Mm-hmm. That would be high praise to be anything like the Beach Boys. Hey, how about this for a little nugget?
Mm-hmm.
This album, start to finish, is 39 minutes long.
Is that...
Slow down. Slow it down.
Is that long?
Holy cow.
Or short?
No, man. 39 minutes long. There's 14, 15 tracks?
Yeah.
So do the math. We're like, you got like a 2.5 minute.
He does. Oh, okay. So you're just doing that. He does kind of scat, I think that's what it's called. Like,
give it a wobble up.
Yeah, he does that through. So there's an element of that, like, in there, which
jazz.
Yeah, jazz elements. Yeah, for sure.
Jazz.
All right, let's see if
we just went dark, people.
Did you download the whole Google library?
Googly. What, you don't know? You don't think I know what a Googleizer is?
It's got to be at least
person 3
times this big.
A person who gives you Googlies. Oh, talk about a break in the action. That makes me laugh. Like 3 times. Todd. Your foamy lattes. Keep me farty and bloated.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Come on. I mean, what is this, a school for ants?
For ants. I can't even fit inside the building.
The files are in the computer?
That's classic.
All right.
Hey, everybody, we're going to wrap up. This album released 15 years ago. I want to ask you, what were your memories when this album was released back in the day?
So I'm hoping I get his name right, but I would have never came across this. I mean, I probably would have from you, but Owen.
Okay.
It was Owen, right?
I think it was Owen.
It was Owen. And we were in college. We were roommates back then, obviously. And it was Halo night. And this CD was on repeat for maybe 2 straight days.
You were killed by a book. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We had
Late
names
Night
like
Halo.
Book. Late Night after college studying, if you
Mm-hmm.
did it, Halo night. And this was just playing. Like we had the volume down. And I think the TV was like
Yes.
on, I mean, you could just hear someone die is about it.
Yes.
And it was just 4-player. If you lived, you stayed, you rotated, and just
That's
over
right,
and
man.
over. And it was like 3
You're
nights straight, 2-3 nights straight.
you're
That's what
right.
I remember.
That's interesting. So I remember probably later in that semester, this album, like you said, was just on repeat, man. It was a go-to. A lot of time in the gym, actually
Yes.
lifting and running to this album, which is interesting because it wouldn't be on my playlist for that now.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
It just wouldn't be.
Yeah, it was
but
just
it was at the time.
Yeah.
And it was also for everybody out there, it was summer for us.
Mm-hmm.
We were in school, and it was just about like high energy and go.
Yep.
And we hosted a lot of parties, a lot of gatherings in those days, and it just kind of fit that semester. I don't know what else to say, man. It just kind of fit.
It faded kind of, if I recall, it faded about as quickly as it came. It was
For
kind of
sure.
there. It hit. Everybody started loving we started skipping songs, and then there's a reason that was their one top hit was the one top hit, because I think the rest kind of faded off. And then,
that's right.
And after we couldn't keep listening to the whole CD because we skipped so much, it was turn it off. Right. I think that's
you're right. I think we also got into a lot of DDR later that semester too.
That's true.
Which was its own soundtrack.
Yes.
It was like immediately into DDR and Guitar Hero. I think that's kind of what happened.
And if you guys out there like DDR, I mean, we use this for workouts. Like we DDR'd for like 2 hours straight. You'd cramp in your legs and you'd be all covered in sweat by the time we were done with this.
And yes, we did this with girls present. Yeah.
Oh,
we sweated up.
Yeah, they were into it. They were like, if it wasn't DDR, it was garage band, and we had the drums and the 2 guitars and the vocals.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, those were the parties. If
radios open or radios, oh my gosh, windows open, doors open.
Oh yes.
People stopping by, come on in.
Just step on in, come play. I mean, those are great times. It would be interesting to play one of these on Guitar Hero or DDR. Like if any of their songs got on those tracks. I don't know.
Hard to hear that guitar. Crazy drums, but like I said, man, they sound more machine.
Yeah.
More electronic.
Maybe a drum machine or something.
So last takeaway then, first album review. As you listen to this and review this album for our podcast for this episode, what did the music make you feel? Anything? What were your takeaways?
I mean, it wasn't like, I didn't get drawn in, I think, too emotionally. It stayed pretty surface level for me. The only thing, because I did kind of the lyrical focus, listening to it, that kind of drew me in to be like, what kind of experiences has the writer either experienced or heard about enough to put these into lyrics? And then the other half of it was just basically to be able to sing about anything it sound like we mentioned the sound quality and everything, but I mean, he can just sing any word. The performance of any word that came out of his mouth was there. So
very quickly,
it got me on that. Yeah. Very, again, articulate, everything. So that kind of drew me in. And then I did get to the point once I finally figured out, I kind of realized that stage thing too. And I looked at the album cover and I was just like, okay, I'm going to let this play out on my head and try to imagine these scenes and try to get what he's getting at, which I don't know if I fully figured it out. And maybe the audience knows more. Maybe there's more in depth and he's talked about this or the band has, but I mean, that's my overall take. It was, I probably won't do a full, listen through again. But I will
for another 15.
I probably will go back to another onesie twosies on there that are a little lower on the ratings, but that I was like, oh yeah, I remember
nostalgic.
That one. Yeah, that's a
little nostalgic there.
Exactly. Bring a few nostalgic loops back in my playlist.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, unlike those golden days in college when this was released, that again, the musicianship from vocal performances kind of felt like somebody who's going to be an amazing performer, but it's 15 years before they really emerge, or 10 years before they really emerge.
Right.
And I think that's overall kind of what happened to the band. They had this release, they had a few radio hits, and I could hear that. But the rest of it is just not radio friendly and a little bit hard to consume as well. Like you said, pace of the lyrics, he's spitting lyrics, but even then it's not, I don't know, that the content of the lyrics themselves don't really grip you, because like I said, it's just kind of a storytelling. And I don't know what era this is supposed to be happening in based on the lyrics. Okay, that's a rabbit hole. Sorry. What does the music make me feel? That it's very polished studio. It's got some good beats, and it's a introductory album by an artist who's got a future. And that's kind of what I took away. Not a lot of nostalgia there for me. I wasn't like, oh golly gee, I remember those days. But the songs that I liked back in the day, I still appreciated. But yeah, listening as a little bit older, wiser adult into the lyrics, and like, that young man, he needs a friend. All right,
I was surprised about how much talk of church there was. So I mean, there's that element somewhere in there. So that's interesting.
Lots of religion. There's a father, there's a pastor, it's a cathedral, blah blah blah. Well, again, marriage. It's a lot of stuff there too, below the surface about marriage and brides and things going on there, and prostitution.
Was he a pastor child, or anyway, it'd be interesting to dig up. Maybe it's just
dig up the Wikipedia afterwards. We don't want to hit it all here. We want to keep it to the music, the album. All right, man. Last hurrah on this.
Sweet.
1 out of 10. We did this for the books.
Oh, yes.
1 out of 10. One like is garbage, mildly offensive, throw up in my mouth. 10 being, I got to tell all my friends from the rooftops how amazing this is, that they need to get it. 1 through 10.
I kind of have to split the album a little bit, because some of them I would put, 7s. I'd give a couple songs 7s, but I'd probably give 3 songs 7s. Everything else, it's not horrible, but like you said, it's not something you can really. It's like a statement, some of those songs, and it's not radio friendly. It's not, family friendly per se. And it doesn't, even though what he's maybe getting at is a very, touchy topic or something, and he's bringing some light to it, and he's, bringing it out, the emotional connection to those aren't there. So that's where I'm thinking a 3 or 4 for the rest of it. Which interesting, maybe harsh, but
I'm with you. I'm going to give the whole thing. I'm going to do exactly what you did, but just split the difference. Call the whole thing probably a 5. For me, it's probably going to go back on the same rotation of maybe every 10 years. Be like, oh yeah.
I remember when he's saying that. He's doing so much better.
And if those ratings are really surprising to everybody, obviously give us your feedback. Hate is gonna hate. We get it. It's
let
cool.
Us know. And let us know how you like the album reviews. If you like these as part of the podcast lineup, give us a thumbs up. We're gonna try, definitely a few more, but let us know what you think. Like this video. But thanks for joining. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us today. Hope you find hope and joy throughout this upcoming week. If you've liked this podcast, please hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next week.